You know, it's one thing to tweet, it's another thing to talk about it in the campaign, but Donald Trump is lining up some folks who have had some serious misgivings and against China for a long time. I mean, this is the A team. If you're going to go into a trade war with China, he picked the right soldiers.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a businessman, so he actually means what he says. People are not used to that from candidates. Charles, they get into office, they come to Washington, and they become a part of the woodwork, and they just take the conventional, easy path, and that is not the path that Donald Trump is going to take. You know, in 2006, George W. Bush created the U.S.-China Strategic Dialogue, and Obama continued it to try to fix our trade deficit with them. You know what we learned? We learned that talk is cheap. And that's all we learned. And now Donald Trump is not going to have any strategic dialogue. He's going to put everything on the table. Right. Security issues that impact our allies in the South Pacific, and everything trade-wise, and even labor issues in China, because that's the only way we're going to fix a $365 billion per year trade deficit with China.
Christopher, talk is cheap, but some say a trade war could be expensive. But it looks like we're on the cusp of it. How do you see it playing out?
See, and it certainly can be. For a long time, what Donald Trump is disrupting is this conservative thing where they've noticed, they've seen that free markets increase wealth and make society more prosperous. So they assume that orthodoxy can extend to free trade. And it turns out it doesn't. This is a guy who said that we should take seriously the mercantilist policies of China. Donald Trump says he's going to call them a currency manipulator right at the bat. But this is also a veteran of our trade fight with Japan. He was there with Ronald Reagan. And when Ronald Reagan went to trade war with them over cars, over computers and semiconductors, over motorcycles, there was hurt. Americans saw some prices rise, but also in the end we saw Japan started playing by the rules, and now we have a great relationship with them on trade.
Although I will say, Lili, I remember the Ronald Reagan tariffs on the Japanese motorcycles. Eventually it was Harley Davidson that said, hey, we don't need it anymore. So at some point, because we do so much business here and there, where should the focus be? Should we say, hey, China, open your markets more, stop stealing our technology? Where are we trying to find this new balance?
I think it's going to be interesting to see how you balance the very deep depth relationship that we have with this country that it intertwines our economies in so many ways. What a lot of people don't realize is that their ownership of U.S. treasuries actually is helping us keep our interest rates low.
They've been selling treasuries. Are you worried about that? I mean, I know it's like 1.1, 1.2 trillion, so it's not a trivial amount, but are you suggesting they're holding that over our heads? Is that some sort of Damocles kind of sword?
I think it will be not a strategic move for them to just dump that out in the market, because all of a sudden anything that hurts the U.S. dollar is also going to hurt the trade for their own goods that are exporting, you know, electronics and clothing and everything that we buy here. I think at the end of the day, I'm very interested to see how do we balance all of this so that we don't end up assuming that Americans all of a sudden are going to be okay paying more for made in American goods.
Right.